Welcome to the Georgia Lacrosse Officials presentation on technical fouls and NFHS boys lacrosse rules for the 2025 season. So here we're talking about technical fouls, right? Personal fouls are fouls of a serious nature. You are worried about safety. Here we're worried about advantage, disadvantage, and that's a concept that we'll talk about in a bit. Or it's easier to understand fairness, right? Technical fouls are never going to be about player safety. And this is one of the things that I hear officials say a lot of the time. They want to downgrade a foul because they don't think, they didn't like it, but it was something that they're worried about, so they just needed to step in. You can't say you're worried about safety if you're calling a technical foul, because it's not about safety. It's about advantage, disadvantage. I often see this when somebody gets pushed from the front and the player goes flying and falls to the ground. That's a legal hit. If you are worried about safety, you need to call a personal foul. If you are worried about advantage, disadvantage, and if a player falls to the ground, they are clearly disadvantaged, you need to ask yourself, how did they get there? Because if they got there illegally, that's just a good lacrosse play. If they got there illegally, now we have potentially a foul has been committed, and the question becomes, does the player lose possession or lose their advantage? Right? And so technical fouls are kind of where you make your money on a lacrosse field, because there's not a lot of safety stuff we're ever going to pass on. We're not going to pass on safety stuff. You're not supposed to pass on safety stuff. All of that is there for making sure that players are safe. Now, if a kid drops an F-bomb under his breath and nobody hears it, am I going to throw a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct? Probably not. I'm going to say, hey, buddy, you got to keep it down. But that's not a safety foul. That's a sportsmanship, right? And in my opinion, I can say, well, I didn't really think it affected anything. Nobody heard it, but I took care of it with a little preventative officiating. Technical fouls, you got to decide, am I going to call this? And remember, with technical fouls, there is the issue of if a player gets, if the ball's loose, the player simply is awarded possession of the ball, right? You just get to start playing lacrosse again. Nobody goes in the box. If you have the question of a player is in possession, they get a 30-second man-up advantage, right? And that's enough time to score a goal, but it's not a ton of time. So we're talking pushes, holds, illegal procedure, delay of game, interference, illegal screens, withholding, warding, illegal touching, substitution fouls, offsides, conduct, and stalling. Now, I've mentioned this. This is called, in the rule book, the principle of advantage, disadvantage. And TPOAD says that you shouldn't call a foul if it doesn't give an advantage to the team committing it or disadvantage the team receiving it. This is what it says in the rule book. These are judgment calls, and they are never safety calls. Okay? You are not going to decide not to call a slash because somebody didn't get an advantage. That's a safety call. You put somebody's safety in at risk, you are going to go to the box and feel sad, right? Got to have a flag on that. So this is all the stuff that I have just mentioned. All right, so holding is the first rule in technical fouls, and holding's a really important one. Holding and pushing are really powerful ways that you can manage a lacrosse game, right? The personal fouls, the big violent stuff, that jumps off the page at you. That's hard to miss if you're paying attention. And if you want to prevent a game from getting to a lot of violent play and chaos, you got to let players know that you're there and that you're paying attention. Holding and pushing, again, they are advantage, disadvantage. They are fairness fouls, okay? So a player may not impede the movement of the cross or body of a player in possession, carrying, cradling, passing, shooting, by holding with the hand, body, or cross. Holding with the hand is exactly what we think of when we think of holding, right? You reach out, you grab. the opponent. Think a defensive back in football who has been beaten on a double move. What do? They reach out and they grab the guy. Pass interference, right? In this case, it's holding. If you are lying on top of somebody, it doesn't matter if you meant to do it or not. You are impeding the movement of their cross or body with your body. And you can use your cross to hook and steer and control the movement of a player. So those are the pretty common sense definitions. Now, we've talked about body checking and physical play. You are allowed to exert equal pressure on a player in possession if both hands are on the cross. So, you can body up a guy, and you can think about 90s basketball and the big centers in the paint. You can do that, right? That's just good defense, and we'll see some examples as we move through here. It is also legal to hold in certain situations. So you may hold a player from the front or the side or his cross within 5 yards of a loose ball. So in lacrosse, there is the man ball drill. This is a 2-on-1 drill where two players are on the same team, one guy's on his own, you throw the ball out, and the two players need to work together in order to prevent the one player from getting the ball. So one guy will call man, and he will body up his opponent, allowing his teammate easy access to scoop the ball up and regain possession. You will see, hey, he's holding his cross. He's preventing him from getting the ball. That's legal within 5 yards of a loose ball. Okay? Now let's look at these examples. In this one, it is very clear. We use our cross to lift a guy up and throw him to the ground. It is very clear that this player is being disadvantaged. He is not able to do anything that he wants to do. This is not equal pressure, right? So this is holding. So let's look at another example. In this case, Brown is going to be in possession, carrying, cradling, passing, shooting, and we are going to see this player. He's got him. Nothing really there yet. And then here we've got two players who are clearly impeding his movement. He can't go anywhere. He's trapped. This is a classic hold. So the equal pressure mantra is really important. Defender may exert equal pressure. So this is an excellent example of the defender sort of pushing off here. The defender has a right to his space, right? Just as much as the offensive player does, right? Look for steering. I did football for a while as a high school official, and what I looked for as a line judge for holding was, where are the hands and how do you got guys grabbed? And what is that offensive player doing? Does that offensive player look like he is fighting and equally competing against the other guy, or is he being sort of steered in a direction that he does not want to go? The cross-check hold is now legal. For years, it was sort of an unwritten rule in the lacrosse community that players would use their stick in between their hands in order to play defense. And finally, it was sort of officially written into the rule book. And what we're looking for here is, it is fine if your hands are less than shoulder width apart. Okay? And again, we're not talking about violent contact here. This is not cross checks. This is sort of, think basketball players hand checking. That's kind of what we're talking about here. If your hands are wider than shoulder width, you can call a hold in this situation, right? So here's an example of a loose ball hold. Okay, so the ball's loose. Clearly disadvantaged this guy. To me, this isn't a trip. He's got him by the stick and he's holding him. Okay, it's not a personal foul. It is a technical foul, and that's what if you look in the bottom center of the screen, you will see the official clearly signal loose ball hold. again, nobody serves any penalty time. Um, you see the hand up, that's for the play on. We'll talk about that in a future presentation. We give the hold signal, which is great, and then we point. Um, this was actually in a game that I did. I've seen this play a million times. The photo is spectacular, but be wary of still photos. You never know what's actually going on. This looks terrible. Um, this looks awful, and this could also be nothing. This could be a kid who's just literally he's running and the stick's going to move along with him. He might even push the stick away as he runs through because that player doesn't really have a lot of leverage holding that stick with one hand all the way out there. He's going for a poke check on the cross. He's got access to the opponent's cross. So there is contact, but I don't really see this as a slash. And what often happens when this situation occurs is that there may be a flag for holding. And the disadvantage here is you're not letting the player look where they want to look. And so that's what you're disadvantaging them by. You're not worried about safety, but it looks terrible and everybody's yelling at you. And it's that what I will call the obvious category when we get to how do we categorize fouls. My top category is safety. My middle category is advantage, disadvantage. And then my last sort of criteria is it obvious? And in this case, it's kind of obvious. So you don't want to go with a personal foul. You want to go with a technical foul. And holding is often what is called. Here's a hold. Now this is going to be contact around the neck. This is going to be something that people will be yelling and screaming and saying, hey, this needs to be head and neck. You can still have contact around the head and neck and have it not be a personal foul. So take a look at this. So yeah, there's contact, but it's also very much on the shoulder. It never really strangles him. It's more about where he wants to go and what he's trying to do, and he's clearly disadvantaged here. This is also higher level lacrosse and bigger, more skilled, more athletic athletes, right? That could very easily be contact to the head and neck in a youth game or a low level JV game. Or a game where things were kind of getting out of control and you had decided to raise the bar on what kind of play you were going to allow. But for me, at this level in this kind of game, this is a hold. This is a 30-second hold. Uh, Not just defenders hold and commit fouls. I want you to watch the attackman that is going to go to the center of the field. So he's going to go what we say play the crease, and I want you to watch him. So red's moving the ball around, and you will see this red player and his defender slowly come in. They're right on the 20-yard line, and now they're backing up to the goal. Look at what red has done. He has completely wrapped his arm around the opponent's stick and is dragging him around in a hold. Oftentimes you see this, they don't quite do it as obviously, but I call it the chicken wing, where a player is looking to guard his stick or hold his stick, and they will pin the defender's cross in between their body and the V formed by their arm, and it's clearly a hold. So the offense can also commit holding. A push is the other really big call that you're going to see a lot of in lacrosse. Again, in order for a push to be illegal, it needs to be from behind. If you have a push from the front or the side, shoulder to the waist, within 5 yards of a loose ball, you do not have a push. That's a legal play. So it's got to be from behind, and it's got to be below the shoulders and above the waist, sort of shoulder to waist. It's not in the neck. It's not in the head. It's not below the waist. It's not in the legs and the knees. That can be a legal play. But this is a classic push. So, White tries to roll here, and we have contact. And it's contact from, look at him. That helmet is in front of his shoulder. And it's close, but this to me is from the side. And yes, he gets knocked down, but this looks like good lacrosse at a high level, and that can be a legal play. Now, if you determine that this player is, it's not in front because this is there's enough maybe that he's on his back, then this is illegal. But this is how quickly this can happen and how quickly you need to make a determination as to whether it was legal or illegal contact. Now, this is not violent enough for me to think of a personal foul. Getting knocked to the ground in lacrosse is not in and of itself a personal foul, depending upon the level of play and the game that you have. Here is a push out of bounds. So watch these players. The dark player, the black player in the bottom left corner has the ball, and he is being chased by a white player, and they are going to come to the sidelines. And the black player is clearly taking a terrible angle. He is not going to beat the white player and turn the corner, so he's going to run out of bounds. But literally just before he runs out of bounds, White shoves him out of bounds. He makes completely illegal contact on his back and shoves him. And you're not allowed to do that because by shoving somebody out of bounds, it's a turnover. And I can't give you the ball for having illegal contact and disadvantaging somebody. Now, Black could have flung the ball back into play, but once he gets shoved, he's clearly disadvantaged. He doesn't have any other options. So watch this play.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my. The referee throws a flag on that one.
Throws a flag on Ron. 2-7 for a push.
Now, this is me. Everybody's yelling at me. If he had just let him run out of bounds, he would have gotten the ball, right? He played great defense right up until that moment. But then you have illegal contact. And people will say, well, that's a weak call. He didn't hit him very hard. He was going out of bounds anyway. The question I have to ask myself, because I'm not worried about safety, is was he disadvantaged? Did he have any other options? He can't play once he gets shoved. So there's no flipping the ball back into the field of play. He doesn't have anything else. And I don't know what was going to happen, but I know there's illegal contact, and I know he's disadvantaged.
Good save by
Here is a hold off of a face-off. So I think we've seen one or two clips of face-offs if you've been watching these presentations in order. And so let's take a look at this. So watch what the black player or the white player is going to do to the black player. Right, and you see our official has a hand up in the air. This is what we call the play on. He gives the push signal and he points in the direction of play. So I will rewind this so that we can see. So let's go all the way back. So the face-off begins, right, and white is going to make a move, or black's going to make a move on the ball. Black is attempting right now to pick up the ball, and two white players are all over his back. And you can see the shove from the one in the back, and he goes down, and our official's hand goes up. This is a great job of recognizing, oh God, there's a guy on his back. This could potentially be a push. Now, the ball is loose here, so it's just a warding possession. We're not worried about safety. Getting shoved to the ground in men's lacrosse is not automatically a foul. It is in some youth levels, right? But not at the high school level. All right, so here's contact from behind, but there's no real advantage. The team maintains possession and their advantage. So watch this play. So we pass it up top. There's a little contact there, right? Watch as he gets it, he turns. That's from behind. It's from behind, but watch, he just runs through it. He runs through it. No one else is able to engage in him. He's allowed to get his hands free, and he has a great shot on goal here. So this is an example of a no call. Technically, is he on his back? Yes. But is he disadvantaged? No. Does he maintain possession? Yes. He actually scores a goal here. So this is a no call, right? And this is where being a good referee really comes down to managing technical fouls. The big, brutal, heinous stuff is pretty easy to see if you're a good if you have eye discipline and you're a good dead ball official. If you're looking where you're supposed to look and doing your job, you'll catch the big stuff. But it's these little ones where you have to make a decision based on a lot of factors really quickly. Okay, this is not like a personal foul where you get a minute to talk about it. Let's see if we think this is legal or illegal. So ball is going to head towards out of bounds, and there's going to be a play on it. So watch what happens. All right, so we go to the goalie, who is now shoved to the side. Right, so 9s or 15s all over him. That to me is from the side. That's a legal push. Let's stop this. So here we go, right here. He gets him right in the chest. That's legal. Right, and then we've got, now we have to answer the question of, does the ball go out of bounds? Is there a player playing from out of bounds? But the contact in and of itself, that's legal. So one of the really big tips I think I can give you all is if you are looking straight onto a play and this is what you're looking at on the left hand side here, it's really hard to see what kind of contact is going on. You want to put yourself in position so that you can see what's happening on the back of that player, because that's where a pushing foul is going to occur, in that yellow area between 25 and 10 here in white on the right hand side. So that's where you're looking for contact, because some of these defenders are able to pull off some pretty amazing checks with 6-foot sticks or one-handed checks. And just because the guy falls to the ground, again, doesn't mean that it's a push. All right, let's talk about warding. This is a foul that is called on the offensive player in possession of the ball who uses their free hand, arm, or other part of their body to hold, push, control the direction or movement of the cross or body of a player applying a check. So if you only have one hand on the stick, you cannot use your body, your hand, your arm, anything to hold, push, or control the movement of the defender or their cross. Now it gets a little more confusing when you get into two hands on the cross. So one hand on the cross, the classic example is a player will literally push away the check coming from the defender with their free hand, or grab the cross of the defender so the defender is disadvantaged and can't use their stick to do anything. It gets a little crazier when you talk about two hands on the cross. Pushing away with two hands on the cross against a defender's cross is legal. You can literally, with two hands on the cross, shove away a defender's check. The idea is to create shooting space so that you can get a shot off. But pushing off against the body of a defender is illegal with two hands on the cross. Now, you can still make contact with a defender, but you cannot push off against that defender in order to create an advantage or disadvantage them. So let's look at this example. So here we've got the white player coming down, and you can see he literally does the swim move and pushes off against what his defender is trying to do. So let's look. He grabs the arm of the defender and shoves him away. That is a ward. Now, in order for there to be a ward, you have to have contact. So a player can run down the field, flapping chicken wings, throwing his arms up, doing jumping jacks. It doesn't matter. Unless you have contact, you cannot have a ward. Okay? And contact alone is not enough, because you can have a defender trying to play somebody and you can have a free arm that is stationary, that is not pushing, controlling, or holding. You are allowed to guard with your free hand. All right, so again, contact with the defender's cross on the left. You can see orange is literally using his hand, his body, his cross to run through the check. That's legal. Pushing away on the defender. So if we were to give a shove here, that's what's gonna be illegal and be a ward. So here's a great example. So ball gets loose, and you're going to see what happens. Or no, it doesn't get loose. He just comes back with it. So he rolls, and he is going to grab the opponent's cross and shove it away. That is an unfair advantage. By the way, this is another clip from the guys down in Texas who do a fantastic job. If you ever want to check out other places with tons of video clips, check out the Texas Officials Association. All right, contact by A with two hands on the cross. This is Rule 611.1, Situation C. Um, Again, situations are a really important thing that you read about in the rule book, right? So uh, some of these rules are kind of vaguely worded and it's unclear in every situation what's going to happen. Well, a situation helps clarify that. So here is the rule committee setting out if this situation occurs, these are your options and these are your only options. Okay? So pay attention to the situations that follow the specific rules themselves. A is not allowed to push away against defender's body. We know that. A is allowed to push away at defender's cross. Legal body contact is allowed. So the default setting for me is sort of it's pretty hard to get call for warding with two hands on the cross. I would need to see a push away at the defender's body. Okay? If I have really intense physical contact, I may be looking at a personal foul. But in this case, we're just talking about technicals. We're talking about warding. So for me, it's very hard to ward with two hands on the cross. Let's look at this example. So White gets the ball, big dude, turns, tries to kind of slip by a guy. Big hit, his stick snaps in half. But this is a college game. This is a big guy. Breaking the stick is, by the way, not that unusual. It happens not without regularity. And so, yeah, he goes down, but he took a terrible angle. White was trying to avoid, I think, full contact. And, you got a big pop here. That to me is not a ward. And that to me would be a legal body check if it was the defender going up against an offensive player. So you got to think about these things. Now, that contact at the youth level is probably an illegal body check and an ejection. So those are, again, level of game is going to shape and give you a lens through which to look at a particular game. So let's look at this. Here we go. This is a tougher one to call, I think. No, potential taunting there. Let's look at this body contact. I don't think he pushes away. And I think the White defender is really off balance in his slide. He's only on one foot. And so when he gets hit, that's why he goes flying, not particularly because of what 31 did. And 31 definitely doesn't push off here. And this is kind of bigs on bigs here. So again, very difficult to ward with two hands on the cross. Here's a good dodge with two hands on the cross where there is body contact. The slide comes. Right? Look at this. White is making the main contact here. Green is running away from him. And it's a big on a little, and he slides off and keeps going. His momentum carries him. He goes to the ground, and Green misses the shot. But to me, that's a good dodge. Two hands on the cross. He doesn't push away. That's a legal hit by the defender. He just doesn't necessarily win that battle. Interference. Interference is a foul that does not involve the ball carrier. So we really haven't talked about one of these yet, right? All the fouls that we've really talked about, other than the unsportsmanlike conduct stuff and the targeting stuff, have involved play right around the ball. Here is another foul that is a technical foul where you disadvantage somebody. In this case, you interfere with the free movement of an opponent who is not in possession or within 5 yards of a loose ball. You cannot play a player. You cannot check their stick. You cannot body check them. You cannot get in their way or prevent them from moving. Hold them if you are not within 5 yards of a loose ball. Okay, so this is the off-ball official's call, and this is again why eye discipline is really important, because if everybody's watching the ball, we're going to miss a lot of stuff. So you will see this occurs away from the ball. So here's the ball, and in this upcoming video, watch what number 6 does to number 4. Number 4 is trying to clear across and get open for a pass and a potential shot on cage. But 6 is going to push him from behind. And this is a push well out of 5 yards. It's from behind. It clearly disadvantages. Right? That knocking a player to the ground is clear disadvantage. Knocking a player into the crease, an offensive player into the crease, clear disadvantage. Now, do I think this is a trip? No. I think their feet get tangled up and there's illegal contact with the push. So I have the option of calling a push. I potentially could call a trip, but it's not there for me. I'm going with interference. You're playing somebody more than 5 yards away from the ball, and you clearly disadvantage them. So in this case, watch the players in the center. Number 4, his stick has just gotten knocked out of his hand. Now, as we know, all right, so right in the center of your screen, you see here comes the check, and you see 4 have to reach down and get his cross. Knocking your cross out is not within 5 yards of the ball. If he's in possession or within 5 yards of a loose ball, you can knock the player's cross out. That's fine. But we're not within 5 yards of the ball. And by knocking the player's cross out, they become a non-player. They're not allowed to participate in the game. So it's a huge disadvantage. And this is clearly an instance where you can see the flag being thrown. All right, illegal screens. A legal screen is when a player, in order to have a legal screen, a player must remain motionless, must keep his cross within his body, and legs must be shoulder width apart. You got to have your feet set. You can't be leaning into it. You can't be rubbing the shoulder of the guy. You can't stick your stick out. You can't go the Vlade Divac NBA screen where you look like you're doing yoga. You can't do that. It's all got to be within your frame. So let's look at some examples. Oh, and the other really key thing here is there has to be contact. If the defender decides to go to the right or go to the left and run around you, they've made that choice. There has to be contact for it to be an illegal screen. The kid could be tap dancing, and as long as the defender runs around him and there's no contact, it's not a foul. So look at these examples. So here we've got white is going to set a screen. That's a legal screen. Blue is going to be sliding, feet are set, right? Another good pick. Now watch this one. In this case, again, we're turning our back, completely legal, doesn't matter. Now, in that case, we've got an illegal screen. You can see, I'm going to back that one up. So watch as he comes in. He is not set. He's leaning into him. We've got all sorts of movement. That is clearly an illegal screen. Here's another illegal one. Nope. He's moving. Right, let's take a look at that one again. Never really gets set. He's spinning around like a whirling dervish. All right, withholding. A player may not lie on the ball, trap the ball with the cross any longer than it is necessary to control. You often see this when a player um, uh, or the goalie or a faceoff guy clamps the ball and they're sort of looking around to see where they want to pass it off to or rake it out to. They don't get a bunch of seconds to decide that. They have to immediately attempt to get the ball into their cross or to push the ball away. Withhold the ball in any manner. You can't use your thumb to keep the ball in your pocket. One step on the face-off with the ball in the back of the cross. We'll talk about withholding more when we get to face-offs as well. But let's look at this example here. If the ball is knocked out or the cross is knocked away from a player and the ball is trapped in the cross and lands on the ground, it is automatically withholding. Automatically. We don't want players kicking the cross, flinging the cross. It creates all sorts of issues. You get into fights and all sorts of things. We don't want free crosses being flung around. And players are very particular about their crosses, so they take umbrage when you flip a player's cross. So it is in the rules that if the ball lands on the ground in a player's cross, it is an automatic whistle and withholding. Now, in this instance, right here, you will notice that this player is thumbing. He has got the thumb in the pocket and he is pushing the ball into his pocket in order to keep that ball from coming out. That is a no-no. The other thing that you will see with offensive players is they will chest the ball. So they will press the pocket of the cross against their chest as they run through traffic. If you see a guy go through like 9 guys and they're all beating the hell out of him, and you're wondering, how did he hold on to the ball? You may want to look for somebody chesting the ball or thumbing the ball. This is a legal procedure. It's Rule 6.5, and to a great extent is what I call the kitchen sink. There are a lot of things in here. It is a great signal to know if you can't remember any of the technical foul symbols. So if you do the spinning arms disco move, this is a legal procedure. Playing without the cross. Flicking the cross in an opponent's face. I have never called this in 26 years of doing this. Entering the game before penalty time has expired. That happens all the time. Participating from out of bounds. We've already seen this when we did our out of bounds presentation. Leaving the restraining area before a face-off ends. We'll talk about that when we get to face-offs. More than 10 men on the field. Not having a working horn. More than 4 long crosses. We talked about that in our some of our earlier presentations. Not having a mouthpiece. Exchanging crosses while in possession. Never seen this happen in my entire life. Throwing the cross, but not at a player, coach, or official. Sort of not done in malice, but you're sort of tossing your cross off the field because you're going to you're going to get a new one. It broke, and you're going to grab somebody else's. That's just a illegal procedure. Turnover if it's a loose ball, 30 seconds if the other team is in possession. So playing without the cross. You'll see here, this defender stick breaks, and he continues to play. Now in high school, that is a flag down. You are not allowed to continue to play. A player may not participate or attempt to participate without a cross. So what does participation mean? People will say, well, he was just standing there. Well, that's setting a screen. You can push, you can hold, you can body check. There's all sorts of stuff you can do to participate without a cross. Now, if this player were to grab the pieces of his cross and run off the field, that is not participation. We actually would prefer that the player run off the field with the broken shards of the cross. Going to get your cross, if it's been knocked out of your hands, is not in and of itself participation. But if you do anything like push, hold, body check, or set a screen, then that's a legal procedure. You're playing without a cross. All right, playing with a broken cross. A player may not participate or attempt to participate with a broken cross. So what does participation mean? Setting a screen. Folks will yell, he's just standing there. Well, if you're standing there and you're preventing an opponent from getting to where they want to go, or to play an opponent, you are setting a screen, which means you're participating. You cannot push, you cannot hold, you cannot body check. Now, let's look at this example. You're going to see his stick is going to break, and he is now still in possession of the ball, and we are running around. That's a legal procedure. You can't play with a broken cross because you are now not a legal player. Okay? The thing I want to focus on is running to get your cross. So if your cross is knocked out of your hands and the ball is not stuck in it, you can go get your cross. You just can't participate, which means you got to get out of everybody's way. And if you do get in people's way, you are now participating. So there are ways to do it. It can be very challenging. I also want to mention this. If a player has a broken cross and grabs the two pieces of his stick and runs off the field, that is not a penalty. As long as he does not participate in the play, he is allowed to pick up the broken pieces of his cross and run off the field. I would prefer that he did that, because then I don't have to stop the game and run over and grab it and get it. If he can get it off the field for me, or a coach can run out there and grab it for me, I would prefer that, okay? So coach running on the field, maybe during a dead ball. But that's kind of what I'm looking for, right? I don't want sharp pieces of metal laying on the ground. And if I get players around a broken cross, I'm going to kill the play, because I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. So let's look at this. This is a game that I did a couple of years ago, and I had never really seen this happen. So watch the defender at the bottom. He has a sort of medieval flail, and he is continuing to play against the player. That is a broken cross, and that is a flag down. Now, in this case, we score a goal, and so the goal is going to wipe out a technical foul. So that penalty time is not going to be served. We'll get to that in a bit. Here are examples of so this player is going to get the stick knocked out of their hands. And in this case, does not participate in the play successfully goes back and retrieves his cross. This is what we call a yard sale when the stick goes flying up in the air. Here is another example that we can see. Now, in this case, the player drops his cross and immediately runs off. That's fine. You don't have to grab the broken shards. If it is possible, I would prefer that a player grab the broken shards so that we get them off the field. But had he done that, he probably would have participated in the play, so I think he makes the smarter move here. All right, loss of player equipment. This rule has changed substantially this year, so we're gonna spend a little time on this. If the loss of equipment is through play and not an intentional act, suspend play immediately. So a player doesn't take his shoe off. That's an intentional act, right? So if a kid's down on the other side of the field and he's tying his shoe again or taking his glove off to get some grit out of his hand, that's fine, right? That's not what we're talking about here. But loss of equipment through play, suspend play immediately. And we want to err on the side of caution. We used to have leeway to let play continue, and that has gone away. If the goalkeeper loses any mandatory equipment, stop play immediately, unless there's a shot in flight. You will allow a shot in flight. So it's already been released from the cross of the player. You're going to allow that to continue. If an offensive player loses mandatory equipment, not a cross, remember we just talked about that, in the scrimmage area, you're going to stop play immediately. And there's a situation for this. And it used to say that if nobody was around him, it was fine. And now it says we need to stop play immediately, even if a scoring play is in progress. So the only time we are going to allow play to continue is if a shot is already in flight. Okay? Awarding possession. If team A is in possession, they will retain possession. If it's in the crease, we are always going to award it to the defense. Otherwise, we're going to use alternate possession. So this is a clear example. If equipment comes out and everybody's fighting for a loose ball, we're going to go AP if it's outside the crease. Now, a defender who loses mandatory equipment must stop participating in the play and substitute off the field and become fully equipped. That's a flag for a legal procedure if they continue to play. Right? So it is not a foul on Team A. It is a foul on Team B. Okay? Here is a example from a couple of years ago. This was a big game. The game is tied. Duke Notre Dame. There are 8.1 seconds on the clock, and we're going to blow it in. And so this is one of the Kavanaugh brothers, and he's driving. He beats his man, and he is going to take a shot, and he is going to score. But we have loss of mandatory equipment in the scrimmage area. It is immediately kill the play. So this does not count. We do not allow the scoring opportunity to continue, and we restart, right, this time with 3.6 seconds on the clock. Okay? Playing from out of bounds, you can see this white player on the left is clearly out of bounds, and if he turns to go for that ball, if he attempts to pick that ball up, if he touches an inbounds player, he is now playing from out of bounds. Right? He cannot participate in any way until he fully reestablishes himself in bounds. Remember, you are where you were. Okay, and in this case, Out of bounds trumps inbounds. Here is an example of exchanging your crosses with the ball in them. I have never seen this play happen, so I created this graphic to make it look like it was happening. Okay, but you're not allowed to do that. I don't think you'll ever see that, but there we go. Now, illegal use of hands. A player shall not touch the ball with his hands while it is in play. So think handball in soccer. Um, Having your hands on the cross makes them part of the cross. So if the ball hits you in the hand and you are grasping your cross, that is not illegal use of hands. It is with the free hand. Okay. The goalkeeper is allowed to bat the ball while in the crease. So if you look on the image on the left here, the goalkeeper is using his hand and he is planning on knocking the ball away if it comes towards him. But the goalkeeper may not touch the ball outside of the crease with his hands, nor may he pick the ball up with his hands in the crease. He can bat, he cannot grasp. Here is a lovely example of just that. Watch the player. You see him in the highlighted square here. He is going to pop the ball to his goalie here. So here we'll zoom in. So coming around, we get a shot. Hits the pipe, the defender knocks it down, it bounces up in the air, and he just boops it over to his partner. That is illegal touching, and that is going to be a turnover. You will note that the official, watch the official right behind the crease, he's going to give the illegal procedure signal. The signal for illegal touching is actually this. You tap the top of your shoulders, and that's illegal touching. But hey, if you don't remember, go with illegal procedure. Delay. Uh, this is what we call a foul for failing to be ready within 20 seconds of a timeout or for a period to start. Remember, we talked during timing about the timing mechanic of pumping your fist and saying timer on. This is why it's important to have a 20-second timer. Failure to ready the ball for play on a stoppage, so nobody wants to pick it up, nobody wants to bring it in bounds. You're just delaying the game. Avoidable lateness of teams. I do see a lot of this around. I mean, avoidable lateness of teams, not a foul. A lot of the schools don't let kids leave until 3:30, and you're in Atlanta traffic. And so if you're coming across town, there's inevitably going to be shenanigans. Again, Atlanta is an hour from Atlanta, and you're going to deal with that is not an avoidable lateness. Okay, they're not allowed to get out in a reasonable amount of time to really make the game. You want to be in communication with these people. That's why it's important to look those coaches up and have cell phone numbers and all that kind of stuff. But the biggest thing that we're going to talk about here is failure to yield 5 yards on a free restart. And this is what we call the quick restart in lacrosse. When we talked about restarts, we discussed no offensive player within 5 yards, but defensive players were allowed to be within 5 yards of a restart. They simply could not engage with the player until they had established 5 yards. So let me show you what that looks like. So you will see here, we're awarding the ball to white. We blow it in. Red never gives 5 yards, and the check is not a slash. It's a legal check, but he is clearly playing him without having given 5 yards on the restart. Also, pro tip: take a look at what this official does. This is a great job. So we restart. He sees it. You see him reaching for his flag. He is going to throw the flag forward. We know that if this foul is a time-serving foul, the player is clearly in possession of the ball, carrying, cradling, passing, shooting. We have a foul that has occurred, delay, and so this is a flag down. And so really nothing bad can happen to white. And as we know, they will go on to score. So this will not, the foul will be wiped out because a goal was scored and a technical foul was assessed. So we wipe out the technical. You never wipe out a personal, but we're going to wipe out the technical because the goal scored. But he doesn't know that, right? So he does not want to throw this flag straight up in the air as we would normally do and then run all the way down the field only to say, okay, we have to assess a 30-second foul because you didn't score, and then run 60 yards back the other direction to pick up his flag. So watch where he throws it. He throws it forward because literally that's where he's going to be standing as the trail. And so this is a great job by the official doing one of these little sort of nuanced things that I love to see. Here is a delay of game. We will have a foul, and then the player must drop the ball exactly where they are. They cannot roll it away from them. And you'll see this player rolls the ball away. So we got a face-off here. We're fighting and scrambling. That's a... Right, and there he flings the ball down the sideline. You can see the red player at the top right of your screen running to get it. So here we go. Let's see what's going on here. So you can see right here, you've got this hit right here, and I think we're calling a push. And so the hand goes up for a play on. We allow play to continue, and it's unclear. So we kill it because nobody's going to pick it up. And then the white player, you can see, flings the ball all the way down the field. And you can see in the top right that the player will be running off the field to go get a ball. Right? You can see he's going to go get the ball that the white player threw out. So that's clearly an example of that ball should just be dropped so that we can do a quick restart and allow the other team the opportunity. By flinging the ball away, you are essentially allowing the defense to get ready for play. And the quick whistle, the quick restart is really designed to keep the game moving and flowing. Finally, we'll talk about the conduct foul. This is what we call the half bird. So you have an issue with behavior. So just like personal fouls, we were dealing with mostly violent, unsafe, aggressive behavior, but they also threw in the sportsmanlike stuff like cheating with your stick or dropping F bombs. In this case, conduct is the lower level of the full bird. The symbol for an unsportsmanlike conduct is your arms out, both of them up and parallel. In this case, we call this the half bird. If it's a loose ball, you simply award possession to the other team. If the other team is in possession, it's a 30-second penalty. And in the example that I'm about to show you, if white is in possession here and commits what you think is something a little above and beyond, you can take the ball away from them. Now they do not call this foul on this play, but I think this meets my definition of you are taunting at the other player. You are not celebrating with your team, your players, and your fans. You are singling out and directing something at another player. That leads to fights, and the conduct foul is it's not terrible, but you want to send a message that you do not want to see that again. And then you have the option of working your way up to the unsportsmanlike conduct rather than going nuclear the first time around. So here we go. It's a nice little spin move. This kid falls to the ground, and we give him the wave. We do go on to score here. So to me, I'm going to blow the whistle and take the ball away from him as soon as he takes time out of his day to direct that at his opponent. Right?
The GLOA is involved in a number of memorial funds, and we support those through our members donating game checks, as well as making regular donations. And we have 3 charitable funds that we contribute to. The Ron Maloney Fund enables high school players who best exemplify Ron's spirit. He was one of the founding members of the GLOA back in the 90s. Are able to apply. Their coach sends in a recommendation for players to attend lacrosse summer camp. Most of these kids go to the Georgia Tech summer camp, and they get a full ride. They get full board. They get to go for a week. They get to develop their skills. These are kids who probably wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to do that. And we have sent over 100 kids since this fund was established in 2005, and it's amazing. It's one of my favorite things of being an official is being at the championship game at halftime and being able to give these kids their certificates and take a photo and let them go to lacrosse camp in the summer. The Kevin Moore Fund. Kevin Moore was one of the, again, earlier officials in the state, and he essentially had my job. He was the lead trainer for the GLOA. And this fund provides financial assistance to officials who want to attend professional development. So when we used to have LaxCon, you could get money to sort of offset the costs of going to LaxCon. Right now, we are using this to support our training and observation program to really help grow the game in the state of Georgia. And this is a really helpful fund that allows us to get out there with our observation program and give real-time feedback on a regular basis to officials, because that's how you get better. And then, of course, we have the Gordon Corsetti Mental Agility Foundation. This is run through, actually, the Gordon Corsetti Mental Agility Foundation. Gordon's father, Lou, is heading this up, and this raises funds for suicide prevention and mental illness research. Gordon was a good friend of mine and one of the really important guys who took the training program here in Georgia and then later at USA Lacrosse and really elevated it to a level that it had not ever been at. More information on this can be found at galaxref.com. If you're interested in making a donation to any of these funds, please contact president at galaxref.com. You can also shoot me an email or a text. But I know a lot of folks outside of Georgia use these presentations, and if any of you could help us out with any of these really wonderful causes, that would be lovely. All right, my name's Greg Height, and again, I'm the lead trainer here at GLOA and a USA Lacrosse clinician. You've got my cell phone and my email address. Feel free to reach out and shoot me a question, or let me know if something's screwed up on a presentation. I would love to hear from you guys, and thanks for joining.